Zach, hello.
So let me set the stage for the meat hall a little bit too. It's actually kind of busy here. It's gosh, I think I said it's probably like around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so it's dark already. There's several people in the meat hall that are actually partaking, drinking and eating. Zach is behind the bar where he normally is. He's dishing out drinks and soup to people. There are a number of folks that have actually boarded up the windows of the meat hall, and you can see by each of the windows there are piles of look like crudely made spears and bows and arrows. But there's a number of people here that you haven't seen before from your time in Good Mead.
Yeah, guards is gonna walk up towards the counter, sit down, and look at Zach.
When you sit down on the stool, it kind of creaks. The wood creaks as your heavy armored self sits on it. Zach looks up as he's cleaning a cup or something, and he says, "My friend, it's been too long. Welcome. You've
Mm.
picked an auspicious time to come. Is there something I can get for you?"
Yeah, I'd want an update on what's going on.
Well, the night of the Frost Maiden approaches, so
Mm.
another difficult time.
Oh. Hey, what's that cauldron, by the way?
Yeah, and he's over here, and he motions behind the bar, and you see it.
Just gonna raise up my hand to wave the group on, come closer. We're going to have to take a look at for a moment. Elijah or Rogar, even Virion are going to examine it,
Zach
making sure the enchantment is holding up.
uh, okay, of course. Sure. Would you like something to eat? We've got plenty.
Just look back to the group to see what they want.
I think Rogar is already preoccupied with the what he thinks is the phylactery, so he's going to use divine sense to see if that gives him anything.
So, Rogar, you actually don't pick up anything from the cauldron at all, but to the south from where you're standing, you do pick up a faint celestial ping, I guess, coming from the dwarf seated at the table that you're directly beside. And seated at that table, there is four different figures. It looks like a tabaxi male, a human male, it looks like a human female, and then a dwarven male. He's sitting at a chair drinking from a flagon. He's the one that you got the celestial kind of vibe from.
Um, and does anyone notice me doing using my divine sense? I assume it's not like when Rogar does it. He like clutches his holy symbol. He says some holy words to himself. Um, so it might be possible other people caught the attention of his action.
I don't think so, but what did happen as you stand there and you grab your symbol and start to do your thing is a dog here, a small terrier, makes its way over to you, Rogar, and kind of sits in front of you and looks up at you expectantly.
Oh, hello, friend. Do you speak common?
Its tail is wagging very excitedly. It's just looking up at you.
Maybe I do not speak the required language. I will try Draconic, and Rogar will say hello in Draconic.
And its head just kind of tilts to the side and it whines a little.
Viren, I'm not. I am having no luck communicating with this creature.
Let me try real quick. Meow.
And Virion the dog, which looks like a wolfhound to you, tilts its head to the side and kind of whines again, but looks at you.
Virion's going to take a couple steps closer. Meow.
And the wolfhound barks at you.
I'm just going to look back to Rorgar and give him a thumbs up and say he's friendly.
Ah, that is good to know. Well, friends, I do not feel any sort of evil presence coming from this cauldron.
I would say, meanwhile, I'm talking with Zach while they are having their little dog adventure. Essentially, Elijah wants to say, we noticed on our way into town that there were some guards, and we were hoping to be able to talk to the council, if possible. Get everybody on the same page.
Zach says, well, Olivissa is up at a table near the fire. If you'd like to speak with everyone, I can call Fief over as well. It's a rough situation, but first of all, all of you look very weary. And he's mentioning that logic because you have 5 hit points. You look very weary. Why don't you take a seat? I'll get you something to eat. And he pours a bowl of soup, and then he gets you a flagon of the honey mead that they're famous for.
Thanks, I appreciate it. And I'll grab it and go grab a seat.
All right. Oh, yeah. So I see some of the folks that we've directed to come down here have come down here. Have they been behaving?
Yes, for the most part. There was a little bit of disagreement about accommodations. We've had people that came from, I guess, the glacier, which was quite a surprise. A few people, and he kind of motions over to a half-orc who's seated at a table. He says, and we've also had a few people come from Bryn Shander.
Oh, we found him again. Sharon, yes. He's now the sheriff over at Bryn Shander, apparently.
Shandar. Well, I was hoping a Yeti or something would get him. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem as though I'm that lucky.
Oh, don't worry. Something will get him. Very soon.
Well, you said you wanted to inspect the cauldron, and he pours you a bowl of soup, Guardian, even though you may not eat it. And he says, it seems to be working functional. It's been actually kind of key to keeping us going. We have not been able to catch anything in the wilds. Fief has been trying with a hunting party, and there's nothing. There's not even any small game anymore. I think without the cauldron, we'd have starved by now. So we owe you again.
Well, you just look back to the group like, that group that's been coming around asking for a sacrifice, yes, I already have my own mind about that. And I am, after all, you're appointed an elected speaker, and I don't plan on letting anyone damage this town. So yes, let's get Olive and Faf over here.
He says, yes, I will grab Olivisa and Fief and meet you at your table in just a moment, I suppose.
He'll stand up and grab the food, but he'll just walk over to this group, pop the food down for them, like, on the house. And he'll go back to his seat.
And as you go ahead.
Rogar will, as Guardian approaches, he'll share the feeling he got, and say, if I'm given some time to rest, I can check this again in a different way that may give us more concrete results. But for now, it does not appear to be particularly evil.
Oh, very well. What about you, Laja? Do you want to take a crack at it too?
I can take a look at it. I'm not sure how in my wheelhouse this is, but I'll see what I can understand from it, I guess.
No, let's just hope that he wrote on there, it's like, hey, this is the property of a now new lich.
So yeah, I'll go over and examine the cauldron. I guess look for any sorts of magical inscriptions or symbolism.
And as you go to stand up, Laja, the dwarf that's seated at the table next to you, he stands up and he says, by my beard! A dwarven maiden! Here in Icewind Dale.
You sure get this reaction a lot, Laja.
Yeah, I'm I'm literally just gonna walk over to the bar. I'm gonna go concentrate on examining the cauldron because that is obviously the bigger problem here.
Just go look at the dwarf and just eye him up and down for a moment.
Oh,
No, I'm not even paying attention. I'm just going.
He had no guards looking at this dwarf. He's like, "The fuck are you?"
as Guardian is doing that, kind of giving him the side eye, Rorgar will whisper to Guardian and Virion, I did sense a celestial presence coming from that dwarf. I'm unsure what that means.
Means he might be a puppet for one of the gods.
Hopefully one of the good ones.
Let's go look at the dwarf for a little longer. He's like, "Come here."
The dwarf has a big smile on his face and he grabs his flagon and he walks over to you. But let's first resolve what's going on with you, Laja. Laja, as you walk up to the bar, the cauldron is actually behind the bar beside Zach, and he's using it to give people food. What would you like to do?
Zach, is it okay if I also take a look at it? I have to say I'm not too familiar with these sorts of magical objects, but I figure I could see how it's working and see if we can't maybe make something else in the future.
Sure, of course.
And I'll go around the bar and I just want to take a close look at it.
And as the cauldron,
Granted, I probably won't be able to tell how to make another one, but if I can, I'll make note of it mentally.
and as the cauldron comes into sight, can you give me a wisdom save, please? Or wisdom check, rather.
Okay, wisdom check, not a wisdom save.
Yeah, not a
Oh
save.
my god!
You gave me a heart attack.
With your wisdom check, not your save, sorry. It looks like a plain cauldron. You know, as before, it has fey symbols on it, like woodland scenes. It looks like nymphs and other forest creatures that are pouring food into cups and serving out bread and stuff. That's lots of inscriptions on it. It's also covered in sort of elvish runes that talk about, you know, the sanctity of the forest and appreciating nature and stuff.
This is pretty interesting. I haven't quite seen many decorations like this before, but I mean, you're right. It looks to be in pretty good condition.
We're quite fortunate that you found it and that you brought it to us, as I've said. And I don't know much about ancient Elvish society. I've heard rumors that there are ruins near Lonely Wood, some sort of Elvish tomb or something. But well, whatever, whoever made it, it's been a great boon to us here in the town.
Yeah, I definitely think it's been a good thing that we found. Not everything that has been happening around here has been good, like that dragon, but there's been one or two interesting things.
Yeah, we heard just rumors about it. You mean the dragon that destroyed Targos and Bremen, right?
Yeah, it was like some sort of construct.
I wonder where it came from.
I'm pretty sure it came from Battlehammer Hold, but I'm not sure how they made it exactly.
Well, I hope whatever was going on there is done. Whatever mad creatures set that on us, I'm glad it was defeated.
I'm pretty sure it's all taken care of, so that's at least some good news.
It appears as though you've been on quite a journey. You all look very, if you don't mind me saying, very ragged.
We've been keeping ourselves busy, traveling here and there, trying to do what we can around the 10 towns. I guess the 8 towns. I might not get used to that. Um, but yeah, I'm sure we'll feel better after a good night's rest, and then we'll be able to figure out things from there.
Of course, you're welcome to stay here in the meat hall, or of course in the temple to Lathander, as you did before. I think our accommodations here would be a little better. At least the fire burning for the rest of tonight. Of course, tomorrow's the night of the Frost Maiden. We'll have to stop all of that, but it'll be a celebration, I guess, before we have to deal with Bryn Shander and the Frost Maiden herself.
Yeah, I think maybe once we get everyone together, we can have a good conversation about what to do about Bryn Shander. It's really, honestly, Shandart who's causing a lot of trouble there. Uh, and probably why he has such unreasonable demands for, Good Mead.
Well, you might have noticed, and he points to the table that is next to Guardian Rogars and Virians. We have 4 new adventurers that have come to town. Apparently, they're from the south and just happened to wander their way into town. Quite interesting group of individuals.
That is interesting. About how long have they been here?
Oh, just the night. I told them they might have picked the worst time of the month to go to any of the 10 towns, but here they are.
Well, in which case, I guess it's good luck that everybody's come to town all at once. Even if, you know, uh, tomorrow night it won't be as fortunate, but we can all make the best of it.
Well, we have a plan for making it through to the night of the Frost Maiden, and once I have everyone together, you're welcome to listen in with Guardian. Um, I feel pretty confident that we will be okay.
Well, I'll certainly ask Lathander to protect Good Mead because it's going to be, a difficult night. It's always a difficult time, so we could use all the help we can get, all of us.
I won't stop you from making your prayers, of course, but I choose to believe in the people I know. My friends, including you, definitely have my trust much before any gods.
I like to think of it more as they can provide us with, the will to keep going and to get done the things that we can. They enable us more than cause direct miracles.
If they're acting through your friends, we are very, very lucky and very thankful.
We'll do our best to keep going here. As long as we are helping, then there's no reason to stop that.
But now jumping back to the group, Rorgar, the dwarf, gets up from his table. He's carrying his cup, and he walks over to you all. He's actually probably a head smaller than Laja is. He's got very pale skin, very dark hair. He's wearing furs like everyone else, but you can see plate armor underneath his furs, and the plate armor that he has is adorned with golden hammers all over it. And he's actually got a large war hammer that he's wearing on his back. And he kind of walks over to your table and he smiles a big smile and he says, "Hello, friends. Hello. The name's Horfit."
Hello, Horfet. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Horfet?
You are. Horfit, yes. Yes.
Well met, friend. My name is Rorgar. I will allow my friends to introduce themselves.
Oh, you mean me? We're friends?
Acquaintances.
Hmm.
Well, I am Virion. It's nice to meet you.
Likewise, very nice to meet you, Virion.
And the shy one next to me is the Guardian.
Joe, you just said friends should introduce. Apparently, I'm an acquaintance.
Horfet, who are these people that you are with? Are they your traveling party?
He's sorry, forgive me. How rude of me. Yes, these are my three companions. We call ourselves the Foolish Four, as it were, although the name has not quite been decided on. And he points to first the human male. This is the great bard Troldane. You might have heard of him. Until recently, he was the lead singer of a musical troupe called Blink Dog 182. But apparently some things went wrong, and we are fortunate to have him traveling with us. If we're lucky, he will sing us a song today. And he motions to the human female seated beside Troldane. This is Jarrah Frostdown, the best shot with a bow that you'll ever find. She doesn't quite say much, and you probably don't want her to. And then, of course, across from her, the tabaxi, his name is Two Mask. Now, what that means, I don't really know. He is a druid follower of Sylvanus, and he's actually the reason we started this journey. He felt something uneasy in Icewind Dale, and apart from the cold...
He's got that right. Friend Tumask, there's actually a statue frozen in snow to Sylvanus that we've seen. I've actually personally been visited by Sylvanus. It's been an interesting adventure.
Tumask says, "Oh, you've been visited by Sylvanus, you say? Huh. Did you have anything interesting to drink before you saw him, eh?"
Can't say I have.
Well, if you can remember what you drank, let me know.
Forgive my acquaintance. He's rather old.
I used to be young, though.
Yes, everyone used to be young.
Yes, of course. Didn't we all used to be young? Orphet laughs. He takes a drink. He says, "Of course. I left myself for last. I am Horfet, Paladin of Moradin."
Impressive.
Thank you.
And-
It's often females that say that to me, but I will take it just the same.
And how long has your group been here in Icewind Dale?
Troldane looks up and he rolls his eyes as he's playing with his curled mustache as he says this, and he says, "It's been too long. We've been here too long already."
And are you here looking for something?
Well, my friend Tumask felt a compulsion to come here, and so, we kind of had to leave Luskan in a hurry. That's another story. Things were not very much in our going our way, so we fled north here. We traveled north here to Icewind Dale, through a frozen pass, lots of killer giant cat-looking things, and we made our way here.
Guard just looks at Two Mask for a second. Like, how do you feel about the cold?
Well, I don't exactly like it. How do you feel about the cold?
Indifferent. Part of nature.
Tumask says, "And I'm sure you've seen my dog. His name is Shoelace." Yes, I've heard all the jokes. A cat who travels with a dog.
There are jokes about this?
Some have jokes. I've never found them funny.
Well, where are all of you from? I come from Neverwinter. I am not actually from this area. In fact, I don't believe any of us are, except maybe you, Guardian?
Maybe. I originally traveled from a small town, uh, Redwood Town.
And Orphet laughs. He says, "Your name is Guardian. What exactly are you the guardian of?"
Don't know. I was simply called out by the townspeople after I made my entrance. They were waylaid by bandits, and, well, I crushed a lot of skulls.
Not the villager skulls, I hope.
No, the bandits, and then I made sure that the other bandits watched.
I see. So a man of the people.
Apparently. And then
He's also
apparently... Hmm?
he's also the speaker of this town.
Oh, yes. Somehow. How did this happen again?
Democracy.
No, right.
Oh, I thought Zach was the speaker. Was it Olavisa? Or was it Fief?
They're the council that rules while I'm away.
Sounds very complicated.
Not really. And apparently before I was in the forest, I used to live somewhere else before I died.
Oh, I see. My friend, if you didn't know, you have quite a bit of, greenery growing on you.
Yes, I like the little mushroom.
To Mask, he kind of rolls his eyes and he says, "I do as well." And Horfet says, "So, as newcomers to Icewind Dale, do you have any recommendations for us? What should we see? What's the sights, I should ask?"
Mhm. The one thing you should all do is definitely piss off a guy named Shannon. No. Shinon? Nope.
I think it is Shandar.
Yes, Jandar. He's a little shit.
Ah, and where is this little shit?
He's in... He just kind of trails off with Bryn Shandor.
So Shandar is in Bryn Shandor. That should be easy to remember. Did they name it after him?
Nope. But I think they should name the way he dies after him. Anyways. Other than that,
Don't
keep
look.
an eye.
Don't look directly at the Frost Maiden.
Yes. Oh, and keep an eye on what day of the month it is. And stay out of... What's that town that almost burnt down? There's a few towns that sacrifice people for the Frost Maiden, so... Be aware.
I believe that was East Haven.
East Haven, yeah.
Is that one of the ones that was destroyed?
No, I think it was Bremen and Trogdor that was destroyed.
Argos, yes.
Targos, yes.
Yeah, a giant flying mechanical dragon destroyed some towns.
Well, that's interesting. A giant mechanical dragon. We're not here for anything with Frost Maiden. You said don't look at her. Huh. Well, reminds me of my sister.
No, she will utterly destroy you.
As I said, reminds me of my sister.
Is your sister a dangerous warrior?
Well, somewhat. She's quite hideous to look on. She shaves her beard and her armpits and her legs. It's quite terrifying.
You should accept everyone for who they are.
Oh no, I accept her for who she is. I'm just terrified by her appearance.
Mm. Right. I don't think that's accepting. What about you, Penguin Slayer? What do you have to say about this?
I mean, I don't know his sister personally, but I'm sure she's a nice person.
I meant, is there any other advice you'd like to give them?
Oh, if you get a chance to play some goat ball, you take that action, boss.
Yes, goat ball.
And Virion will lift up both of his hands and shout, "Goat ball!"
Two Mask, he looks at you a little strangely, Virion, and he says, I must ask, is there a goat involved?
No. Well, I mean, the ball is the goat. It's the greatest game of all time ball. I think that's where the name comes from.
I believe the ball is made from the leather of a goat. You know, the hide.
Uh,
So it's
I
not
see.
actually a goat itself, it's just, you know, they utilize every part of the creature once it's done.
I see. Okay, goat ball, Frost Maiden.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Oh, be wary of any ruins you happen to come across, or if you hear tale of a witch. Uh, yeah.
And Horfit says, no worry about a witch, we have our own. He looks to Jera. Jera looks back at him, not amused. She just goes, Ugh.
Adorable.
Yes, that's really all she does. She growls. I actually have never heard her say a word before.
I'm meaning just your interaction. Pleasant. Laja, we're making friends.
Meanwhile, I'm just finishing up my conversation with Zach before coming over. So, what is happening over here? You called me?
We're introducing ourselves and our knowledge to these 4 younglings.
Can I make a check to see if I've heard of this bard since I'm from the south?
Sure.
What would it be? History?
History sounds good, sure. Oh no. Let's go this way. You have heard of Blink Dog 182, but you don't like them. You absolutely hate their music. And the fact that this guy, who is you've heard is one of the lead singers, is sitting there, you feel quite disgusted.
Okay.
That's the most useful 0 I've ever heard in my life.
I don't know what it is about their music that's offensive, but you find it very offensive.
I guess I would say when Laja comes over and is greeted by Guardian, I believe it was, before I got distracted by Blink Dog 182. Uh, yes, I heard from Zach that you just arrived here today.
And the dwarf, he pulls your chair out to motion for
Hopefully
you.
your travels haven't been too dangerous, too bad.
The dwarf, he bows and he says, let me introduce myself. I am Horfit, a loyal follower of Moradin, at your service, my lady. And he pulls out a chair for you to sit. Please, please.
I will be polite this time and take the seat. My name is Laja. I am a cleric of Lathander.
And he takes a step back. He says, Lathander? Uh, that is quite a story. I would expect you to be a follower of our god Muradin. I would love to hear the story about how you fell into Lathander's graces, but to answer your question, my friends and I are here. We're an adventuring party, and we've made our way north to see what we can do in Icewind Dale. We've been told that we've come at an inauspicious time. Something about sacrifices and Night of the Frost Mage, I believe.
The Frost Maiden currently is the preeminent power in this area. There is a curse if you go out on the night where she is traveling, so perhaps be wary tomorrow evening.
I will, thank you, but unfortunately, I am protected by the ever-present shield of Muradin.
I can guarantee you, as close as you may be to your god or any god, um, there are still consequences for being outside. We ran into her last month, and I would say it was one of the more unsettling experiences that I've had up here thus far.
Tumas says, I can tell it's shattered some of your minds. He's looking at you, Rogar.
Whoa, what do you mean? Yes, I could not let go of my holy symbol for a few days, but
Jared looks at Yorgar and she just goes, ugh.
Right, Elijah, this is Treldin, Two Mask, and Jira, right?
Absolutely correct, my friend.
yes, Laja, Traldane was in a band, something dog, some numbers, but they're very derivative of Red Knight.
Troldane looks at you. He's kind of been ignoring all of you until just those words, Rogar, and he looks at you very slowly and he stops twirling his mustache and he says, You said derivative?
Like, come on, you guys took your look and your sound right from them.
You offend me. We ripped those songs from the gods themselves.
I don't want to start any trouble. I'm just it is just an opinion.
Tumas says, Well, you've gone and done it now. Now Treldane's gonna have to roll his eyes at you until it kills you.
It very well could. I am very beaten up at the moment.
Orphet says, I think I'm going to go to the bar and get something to eat. Do you have any recommendations?
There's a very good stew here. It is the special of the town.
I think I'll have some. Any how about a round for you as well? He motions to all of you at your table.
Your money.
Friend, no, thank you. I'm trying to cut back in my old age.
I won't take no for an answer. It'll be on us, the Foolish Four. Name pending, of course.
Garen just looks to Laja.
I'm just gonna let him leave. I'm not gonna say anything else.
He offered you a chair. And he didn't insult you. Progress.
Well, I would say in comparison to Shandar, perhaps, but in general, maybe not.
Never know.
We have bigger problems to deal with right now, don't we?
Yes, Varian, how have you figured out to not kill the penguins?
I have not. I actually forgot about it for a few minutes, and now I'm back thinking about it, and this is terrible. Thank you for bringing it up again.
This murder slips your mind so easy, you truly are a monster.
I know.
Guardian,
Hmm.
give him a break. He had to deal with a lot today.
You just heard him say he forgot.
I don't know if it was forgetting necessarily or and forgive me for this, Virian. It might have been some sort of shock from guilt for a moment.
The second one, definitely.
Well, you shall have the rest of the evening to contemplate, without my reminders. But tomorrow,
I mean, tomorrow we have to help Good Mead prepare for the Night of the Frost Maiden, right?
yes, but we can still multitask. What's the word? I think that's multitask, yes. And we also have to deal with those idiots from Brenshander.
That was exactly what I was speaking about. That's kind of up there on our list of priorities, isn't it?
Well, maybe we can sacrifice them to the Frost Maiden.
That's not how Good Mead does things.
Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be able to avoid any bloodshed. I
We
get
can
the
see.
feeling.
The council must have thought of something. Either that or they'll at least have some input. We can't just make all the decisions ourselves, right?
He looks at the little medallion he has, like, I think that's kind of what this means.
Yeah, but if you set up a council, then you at least need to take their advisement.
I feel that we're going to have to go back to Brenshander and break, or at least appoint a new sheriff. We do get busy with these little side nuisances.
It does feel like we are getting further away from killing this Frost Maiden.
I feel like we are just taking very slow steps forward.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if we destroy the Frost Maiden, we can use that to convince the towns to possibly have a new mindset, and hopefully we can push out the annoying sheriff. Shinnok?
I'm starting to get the feeling that you just don't say his name right to avoid his attention. Like
Oh,
it's a bad word.
it's more so that I only remember the names of those I like.
No, Laja is smiling at you like it's a joke.
Like, we got these two here, and then we have you, Elijah.
Well, hopefully we'll find more people who are worthy of having their names remembered.
You know, those, what's it called, Foolish Four? They seem interesting enough.
I guess the only thing that I'm concerned about is exactly how foolish it may be to come to the 10 towns.
Well, we came here.
Yeah, but I'm not sure you could necessarily say that it was all in interest of self-preservation. I would say probably while we are doing well, most people would not uh, take that risk.
I came here for funeral offerings, then got horribly sidetracked. His guard's gonna look towards Zach like, what's taking so long?
Actually, you see at the bar, you see Zach has managed to round up Fef and Olivisa, and he's putting on a tray a bunch of drinks for Horfit. And Horfit's actually making his way back over to your table with them. He has a big smile on his face. My mother said that nothing makes friends more than a good round of ale, so here you go. He puts down the tray on your table. Sorry, my friend, he looks to you, Virion. They don't exactly have any elvish wine, so I hope this honey mead will be good enough for you.
I'll reluctantly accept it. Thank you very much.
He looks to you. He looks down. He says, and Jera? I know you never drink any mead, so here's a bit of watered down milk. That's what you wanted, right? And she looks back, very upset on her face, and she just says, Ugh.
You could have my mead if you want it.
Nah.
Okay.
Well, don't take that the wrong way, my friend. From Jera, that's winning praise.
I'll take your word for it.
And he says, if you don't mind, I'll take my leave and go back to my table, and we'll begin to plot how we're going to defeat this evil frost mage.
Adorable.
Yeah. If he's honest about that, maybe we can enlist them to help us.
We also don't know how strong they are.
That is true.
Imagine if we had gone straight to the Frost Maiden right when we came into town.
That would have been funny. We would have all been dead, but it would have been funny.
So, I guess you might want to join the council, Guardian, or do you want us all to come?
Yeah, let's see what they have to say first, and I'll call you over as we get more to the pertinent information. And Garden will get up, and first he'll go and grab his mead, and he's just gonna walk over and like actually give it to Chera, and then walk over.
Jera immediately takes it and drinks a lot of it, and she looks at you and just goes, ugh.
Just give her a head nod and head over to the bar.
Well, look at that.
When you make it over to the bar, you see Zach and Fief and Olivisa are in silent conversation, but they stop as you approach Guardian and they all turn to you. And Zach says, well, my friend, I can get you up to speed on what we have going currently. We, of course, would love your input. The situation is, of course, tomorrow night is the night of the Frost Maiden. So, the sacrifice, as you know, that we do here at Good Mead is we sacrifice our warmth. So for that night, we do our best to make it through without any fires or magical spells or even any torches. We all typically stay in our homes. In our case, we huddle as close to the bees as possible to keep them warm and alive. And that's what we're prepared for tomorrow night. The new wrinkle are the guards from Bryn Shander who, on behest of Sheriff Shandar, we now know from Bryn Shander, has decided to demand that the sacrifice from his town be taken from us, the residents here, one of the residents here, and being used as for their sacrifice for this month. He's demanded one of the residents of Good Mead, and we have decided not to comply.
Well, good. I was gonna say that as well.
But we have no army. In fact, the Bryn Shander army numbers more than the entire residents of Good Mead. So what we're going to do is hole up here. You notice he kind of motions around. The foundations of most of the buildings here in Good Mead are made out of stone. I believe all we have to do is hold the town for one night. There's no way these guards will stay here on the night of the Frost Maiden. No one is that foolish. So if we can just, hold out one day, I believe they will give up.
What are their numbers?
Well, when we saw them before, there was the captain herself. She had two, looks like sergeants, and then a number of guards. They didn't exactly present their entire numbers. We believe between 15 and 30. He looks to Olavisa and she nods. Thief says, I believe if we can fire some arrows or something to scare them away from approaching any of the buildings, then we can just wait them out. What are they going to do? They don't have any siege equipment. Like, most of these buildings are made of stone. It's too cold to start a fire, and they certainly don't have the supplies to burn us out.
You all decide to elect me, even though I'm not the most sociable kind, as your speaker. I've gone to the towns, tried to do my best to represent Good Mead. I have often had concerns about this place on my travels. I've tried to send aid as often as I could. I tried to send orcs down here for the last Ice Witch night. Apparently they were killed off, though. They were here to keep you guys safe from what we discovered while we were heading to Battlehammer Hold. And then I encountered these individuals here, and he's pointing to the tribesmen. They needed shelter, so I sent them here to help bolster the numbers, because I knew the cauldron would be of aid. We were in Bryn Shander to fight that dragon. In fact, we are the ones that helped brought it down, delivering the killing blow, coming up with the idea to bring it down to the ground. If they want any sacrifice, they can try and take me. But as I said, they can try. I will be making sure to patrol and guard the town hall, this place, tomorrow, and if any of them attempt to make egress, I will break them. Sound good?
Olavisa, she kind of looks a little distressed, and she says, Speaker, my concern is next month. What happens if we fight them off, or they go away? Will they be back next month? Is this the way things will be?
Hopefully not. Hopefully once we're done here and everything is stabilized again, we'll have a solution so you won't have to worry about doing the heat anymore for the month after and any time after that.
Zach says, you have to forgive Olavisa's concern, Speaker. It's because we are not warriors. We are builders. And in the case of Fief here, she and only a small number of others are even hunters at all. We are mostly a peaceful people, and that's really what drew all of us here, to make a quiet life for ourselves. This is a threat that we just are not equipped to handle.
I know, and I am disturbed that you have to deal with this. But I'm the speaker. I will tell the guard captain, or whatever title is, that the answer is no. And if they wish to push it any further, they'll have to deal with the slayers of the construct dragon. Hopefully, that will make her and their men second guess their position.
I appreciate, and this is Zach speaking, I appreciate your concern, Speaker. However, you and your friends look very fatigued. You're welcome to stay here the night. Like I said, this is the last night before the night of the Frost Maiden. We will have the fires going, warming the hall as much as we can. I recommend you stay here. Have a bit to eat. And he motions over the cauldron. As much as you can drink and rest up, and whatever happens will happen tomorrow.
Yeah. And speaking of resting, how's my home? Have you guys been using it well?
Actually, I mentioned before there were some disagreements about accommodations. We sort of gave the home of the speaker away to a family from the tundra.
And tell me about this family.
Apparently they came down from the glacier. They said that you sent them, so it seemed like the right thing to do.
So the house is in use.
Yes, it is, but
Good.
you won't be able to use it, unfortunately. You're welcome. I can pull out some cots, and you're welcome to stay by the fire tonight. And he motions over to the northern part of the meat hall.
I was more worried that you had left it empty in some attempt to leave it as a standing vestige of what was old and was. I'm glad to see it in use.
No, we certainly don't have the resources to dine on any sort of old tradition here. No, we don't. The only building that we are not using is the Temple of Lathander, and most people try to stay away from it. It has a bit of a negative connotation here in the town.
Speaking of old traditions, is there any traditions or combat law that I might need to be privy about?
None that we have here in the town, of course. There are the laws of the 10 towns in general, but nothing here especially.
Any law pertaining to single combat to determine the outcome of a conflict or resolve an issue?
No, and frankly, that's not how we would handle things here.
Apparently, Brent Shander, they had some law like that.
I heard that was the attempt of Speaker Maxwell Dinar, the former Speaker of Maxwell Dinar, to get himself elected in Bryn Shander. I'm glad that it didn't work for him. Speaker Shane is, at least she has the reputation of being a very reasonable woman. I say that on the night where her guards are trying to take one of my people for a sacrifice, so maybe things have changed.
Yes, hopefully we'll get this all resolved soon. But I want to thank both of you, all three of you actually, for your work and dedication towards the people of Good Mead. You've probably all have had many nights that were sleepless, and your minds filled with worry and your hearts feeling low with the dread of making some tough decisions. But I'm glad that you've all pulled through, and I'm glad that the cauldron has aided you more than it could have ever possibly aided us.
And Zach smiles and he says, as I mentioned before, Speaker, the cauldron alone is really what is keeping the town going. Without it, we just simply wouldn't be able to survive. We have no way to get food at this point. And with trade being the way that it is, the other towns don't necessarily want our ale, and we can't produce much of it anyway. If things can change, stabilize to a bit, perhaps we can continue to trade with the other towns and build up a surplus like we had before, but for now, we're just barely making ends meet.
Understood. Well, let you get back to it, and we will rest up, and then I will inform the guest of the decision.
And he nods. And of course, Speaker, and as I said before, you and your friends are welcome to take a place by the fire for tonight. It will be burning all through the evening to keep you all warm. And of course, any food you'd like, any motions to the cauldron, we have plenty.
Understood. Yeah, Garden will get up and he'll look towards the group and he's like, I'm going to the temple. Yeah, he'll head on.
I'll come with you.
Alright, Rogar. Let's go. He will stop and look at Jarrett, though, and take a step forward, and he'll just tap his throat lightly to her. Like, injury? Or just don't like saying much?
She just kind of looks at you and raises an eyebrow.
You can nod if it was an injury. Or shake your head if it wasn't.
She really ignores you, and you notice that she's polishing the wood of her longbow that she has sitting in her lap.
Is she human, or...?
Yeah, she's human.
Good. Alright. And then yeah, he'll just head on out.
Elijah and Virian, what are you two up to?
I'm actually gonna go up to the bar to speak to the council members who are there.
Okay. And as you approach, the three are not really talking to each other. Fifa's just sitting there at the bar drinking her ale, and Olavisa is collecting another tray of soup to take back to her table.
Real quick, I do have, I guess, one question, if that's okay.
Zach turns and he says, "Of course. What can I do for you?"
I know things haven't been pretty good here, trade-wise. What would you guys need to, I don't know, get by a little bit better?
And Zach says, "Well, it would be good to have more options than just soup." And he kind of laughs, like, "This is our only sustenance. I've tried to add what spice I have on hand.
It gets boring, I understand.
That would just make life in general better here. I don't know how we would do that. If somehow the game would come back to the area, that would be nice. Also, if so many things would be made better if we could just trade with the other towns. It's difficult. I sent out a letter to Dugan's Hole, which is to the south. They normally would buy our honey mead quite regularly, but we just haven't gotten any word from them at all. And then, of course, it's hard to know what's going on in East Haven. No reply from them either. I was a message back from Lonelywood, and we were told that they're recovering from damage from the dragon. So trade has just stopped completely. But if we could build up our funds here in the city, we could perhaps buy some of the supplies that we need.
And while Zach is saying that, Lodge is going to go through their huge bag and dig out the long abandoned coin purse, because we haven't been using cash at all, basically. And I'm going to take out 35 gold and push it across the counter. I don't really have much use for this, so if this could help you guys, then, it's something I can give you.
Zach's eyes widen. He says, I can't accept this. This is too generous.
I mean, my friend is the speaker of the town. And Laja will give a smile.
I thank you on behalf of the townspeople. We will, I promise, put this to good use whenever we're able to trade with the other towns again. First order of business would be to build more homes. We have so many people that have come to Good Mead.
But I guess that means that Maybe Good Mead is one of the towns that is on the up and up in, the 10 towns. You're
Oliv-
certainly growing bigger, getting more people, getting more lively, I guess.
Olivisa, she catches what's going on and she walks over to you, Laja, and she says, "Now, just a minute, Zach. I just had an idea. We have a bit of a problem and we may have just been handed the solution. We have a group of guards from Bryn Shander who are here to collect a sacrifice. What if we tried to pay them off?"
Uh, I mean, I'm not gonna speak for you guys, but I think that might, you know, be able to do something. I don't know whether we'll be able to convince them to totally ignore Shandar's uh, plan, I guess. I don't know. Whatever he has in store in order to, I would say it's more to mock Goodmead than to actually get an an advantage, I guess.
And Olivisa turns back to her table, and you see the table that she came from. She was conversing with a large male half orc. And she says, "My friend Morden is from Targos originally. He came here to escape the dragon. He's told me a little bit about how things worked in Targos, and apparently he was a shop owner and he had to pay regular protection money to the guards uh, just to let him really run his shop at all. This Captain Jalisa, from what I've been told, was from Targos as well. This might be more of a shakedown than an ongoing threat. If we gave them money, they might allow us to operate as normal."
I mean, this is pretty much all that I have, but I can see if the others can provide any more of that. I don't know how much we'd need to pay them off.
And Zach shakes his head and he says, "Just like your question before, Olivisa, what about next month? If we pay them with funds from our friends here, we won't have that money next month to appease them." And Olivisa says, "Well, that's next month's problem."
This is a silly suggestion. Do you think we might be able to get those guards to just leave Brinshander and join as our guards? That seems like a dumb idea, but it would be very funny.
And Zach says, "That's not a terrible idea. I have to imagine that some of them would be happier here." Uh,
It would probably be a simpler life than one of Brinshander's guys, but or guards rather. Um, but I mean, it could work.
my only concern is about what kind of message that would send to Bridge Shander, because they have a much larger army, 2 to 300 from what I can recall. We might be able to sway this 20 or 30 guards, but what about when it gets back to Bryn Shander? What would they do?
Yeah, that's the one downside of that. I guess we have time to think about it. Uh, y'all can come to a decision, and if there's anything that we can do to help, just let us know.
Thank you, my friend. Of course, I offered the speaker, but the offer extends to you and the rest of your party to stay the night here if you'd like. We'll keep the fire warm. I'll bring out some cots and blankets. You shouldn't need anything, but if you do, just let me know.
I do appreciate that. I think I'm gonna try to clean up the temple a little bit more. It may not be in use right now, but who knows? Maybe in the future it might be uh somewhere that more people will want to go.
And Zach raises an eyebrow and he says, I won't stop you, but I think you know my opinion already on the Thunder.
You can certainly have whatever opinion you want to have. It's okay.
And Fief kind of moves away as the two of you are talking, and she makes her way over to you, Virion. And she says, excuse me, Sir Elf. A moment of your time, please.
Yeah, of course.
So we're preparing a defense against the attackers tomorrow, and I was wondering if you could evaluate it and let me know what you think. This is not something I have any experience doing.
I'd be happy to help however I can. And Virion will get off of his tummy because he was laying on the floor trying to make cat noises at the dog.
And the dog continues to follow you, Virion. I think I said it looks like a wolfhound to you. It seems very entranced. As you walk away, Fef is kind of moving you over to one of the boarded up windows. The dog follows you closely. But you see she kind of she shows you over to what she's constructed in several places throughout the meat hall. They've put together sort of like a pile of arrows and bows and spears. And that's what she wants you to evaluate.
This is the prep work you've done so far, just compiling weapons.
Yes, we're boarding up the windows because I believe that would be the only way they could get in. This is I've never been through a siege of a city before. What do you think? I built most of these bows myself.
Can Varian take a look at the weapons just to see if they're actually going to hold up in battle for them?
Yeah, you look at the bows, and the bows look kind of like crap. Like they were probably, you might get a few shots. It's very unlikely you'll hit anything. And then if you hit them, especially anything armored, they probably won't do anything at all.
Varian will pick one up and like pull the drawstring back as hard as he can and try and break one of the bows.
Give me a strength check, please.
Oh god. Oh my god, I forget where stuff is.
Yeah, you draw back the bow, pull the string as hard as you can, and it just snaps. Say like the top part of the bow breaks, like where it would connect to the string, so it's not repairable at all. And Fef, she looks very shocked, and she says, "I've heard about the legendary strength of elves, but that's impressive. Wow."
Yeah, I'm no, strong person by any means. Your craftsmanship is terrible. We need to do some work here.
Oh, I'm sorry if it's not acceptable. I've mainly constructed bows to hunt elk, and they've worked in the past for that. Sorry, this is not something I have really ever done before.
This is a matter of you dying or this person who's running at you dying. You have to take this a little more seriously than where your next meal is going to come from, okay? These have to be up to par. And Virion will pull out his family bow and show it to her and just kind of go over how everything is done properly. Look at the details. Look at how everything works together. Everything is so finely tuned with each part that you have nothing to worry about. This bow has withstood thousands of years. Your bow withstood thousands of milliseconds.
Her lip begins to tremble, and a slow tear starts to come out of her eye, and she says, I'm so sorry. It's been such a hard season. I've never gone into the forest before and not found anything, and then had to come back, and I feel like I'm not able to contribute to the town anymore. It's just terrible. My whole life I've lived in the forest, and then the whole night of the Frost Maiden, huddled in my house alone, cold. It's been a terrible year. I'm so sorry. I will try harder.
You can't just try harder. You have to do it. All these people are depending on you. I'm not trying to be hard on you, okay? But these people are good people. Look at Zach over there. One of the nicest people we've encountered in all of the town 10s. Olavisa. Do you want to see her get murdered because one of your bowstrings fails and a horde of people come through here and stab her in the neck?
She's crying heavily now at this point, and she looks up at you and she says, "No, no, I would gladly throw myself at these soldiers before I let any of that happen."
Then assemble a group of people, some people with some know-how, and I will help you craft some weapons that will actually put a dent in the attackers that are on their way here. You have a good start here, Fef, but we need to do better.
And she nods and walks off, shaking her head. And you hear kind of a crunch behind you, and you turn and you see that dog has gotten a hold of the bow that you broke, and he's chewing on it like a chew toy.
I'm going to get down on the ground with him and give him a big bear hug and roll around with him and hold back tears as I remember I've been murdering penguins for the last several weeks.
And Laja, you hear a commotion and you turn and it looks like Virion is wrestling a dog. The dog looks kind of like a boxer, but he's rolling on the ground with it. And the dog has pieces of a bow, it looks like, which now is just really large shards of wood in its mouth as they're like tumbling around.
Virion, is everything okay over there?
It's as good as it can be for the next little while, Laja.
Are you sure you don't want to? I don't want to. I don't know. Interrupt your puppy playtime, but we do need to rest eventually. Get everything prepared. I know it's only the afternoon, but it's been a long day already.
A quick rest would be good. I do need some time to help some of the townspeople craft some weapons as they prepare for the onslaught that's set to happen here.
I think that works out fine.
All right.
We can set up where we're going to be staying and then do whatever needs to get done during the stay.
Sounds good.
In which case, Laja will lead Virion over to where the temple is.
Okay, let's move over to the temple. So Guardian and Wargar, you've just left the meat hall and walked just really not very far away. The temple is directly across from the meat hall. And as you enter the temple, it is still dark and abandoned. No one has squatted in it or used it really at all.
Alright, no. I'll do some cleanup around it. Make sure it's nicer than when we last left it. Because I think we last left it with a bunch of gunk over here.
Yeah, Rorgar will pull out his tinderbox and whatever candles still remain, he'll light them. And then he'll take a whatever seat exists still at the front of the church or temple, he will take a seat and begin to take a moment's prayer.
And as you light the candles in the spots around the temple, the light bounces off of the glass that's built, the remaining glass on some of the windows, and it reflects and lights up the whole room just like it did before. And the bright symbol of the sun, one of the symbols of Lathander, catches the light too. And it's much brighter in here than it should be based on the number of candles that you've lit. But you do notice, Guardian, throughout the window, and especially as you were crossing over to the temple, the moon is just a tiny sliver in the sky because tomorrow it's going to be the new moon.
Let's make sure we get some rest. We might have to dispatch a few guards tomorrow.
Rorgar's actually in the process of taking off his armor for the first time in a few days. And he's very quiet. And thoughtful in this moment.
Yeah, as you're removing your armor, guards is watching all the pieces and he's grabbing which ones he thinks need to work on.
Oh, it's probably all of them.
But your armor's shit compared to me. You need to get new material. Something more resilient.
This is what Torm and Bahamut have blessed me with. I will make it work.
Nearly they came down from wherever they sit and gawk at the mortals and gave you this armor.
No, it is the armor that I found. I was given, not directly by them.
Oh, so you just found, okay. We're gonna make some changes later. You seem to have a lot of issues with bending because the plating is too rigid. Me and Logic can work on it there. We could actually carve out some of the plating here and make it more layered. Still have the same protection, more maneuverability.
I am not an expert when it comes to metalwork, so any help would be appreciated.
You know, that's why I was saying, like, the armor is shit. It's from a metal standpoint. It's actually decently constructed, but it's more for ceremony.
You know, Guardian, this building here with the lights light up. This is maybe the only place in all of the 10 towns that reminds me of home. Oddly enough, a temple to Lathander.
Hmm. Well, my home was a ditch in a forest next to a tree. I woke up. I'd often go back there and lay down and rest.
I think we are all due a long rest. And I don't mean that. I don't mean that in the mechanical sense. And then Rorgar is just going to silently turn to the statue of Lathander, and he's going to pray to Lathander. He's going to pray to Torm. And he's just going to hope that the next few days are easier than the last few.
And while you're doing that, see if the gods actually want to get off their asses and do something. He's gonna go out to that little makeshift forge that he left here.
And Laja, as you're walking across the snow, leaving the mead hall over to the temple, you hear a whisper, and you turn, and there's no one around. The streets are abandoned. They're not abandoned, but people are staying in their homes, getting their homes ready. And there's no one out that you can see. And as you continue walking across the snow, you hear another whisper again, and it sounds like something's crying. And you look again, and you don't see anything, and you recognize the sound where it's coming from. It's coming from your bag. And as you look in your bag, these sounds are coming from that mace that you picked up from the Pact Angel.
Well, I guess I'll just take a look at it.
And as you grab the mace and you hold it, it is very, it should be very cold to the touch because it's definitely a metal and it's very cold outside. It isn't though. It's kind of warm, and the light that's coming from the Temple of Lathander, because you're almost there, just kind of bleeds off of it, and it doesn't gleam or glisten or anything in the light. It almost seems to kind of wash it away as the light bounces off of it. And as you're holding it, it feels both heavy and light at the same time. But you start to look at it and then put it back in your bag, and you think you hear someone crying again.
I'm gonna take a deep breath, put my bag back on, and just keep walking. Problem for later.
And Guardian, I
because
think you would have
I didn't tell anybody that I had that, so it's a problem for later.
I think you'd have noticed Guardian Laja stopping in the middle of the street to inspect something, and then they're coming back to the temple. But Laja, as you make your way to the front of the temple, you notice as before, it's really abandoned. No one's doing anything here apart from Guardian, who's made a forge just on the outside that he used before. But it seems
Hey,
to be
Garen.
abandoned.
Sorry, I
still.
was muted before.
go ahead.
Garen just looks at Elijah for a second, like, as she gets closer, like, you good?
Yeah, I'd say so. Are you fixing up your forge again?
Yeah, I'll start up. Probably take a couple of hours for it to heat up, so during that time, I'm gonna try and get a little bit of a rest.
That sounds fair. We've all done a lot of traveling today.
Hmm. Don't need any more surprises than what we're dealing with right now, so. By the way, what do you think of that, Torfet?
Well, I mean, uh, he's about how I would expect, I guess.
He seemed surprised that you worship whatever Lathander? Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it's not common for most of my people. We tend to stick with the gods of our ancestors.
Hmm. I personally think the gods are all just jerks.
Well, you're certainly entitled to your opinion.
Not to be mean, I just find the fact that they seem to demand more than they actually do. They want people to praise them and worship them and give them tribute. What do they do back for the people, besides give a select few every now and then some trinket? As a little holdover till the next time they have to hand out something. They often say that they can observe and watch everyone, and yet they let people suffer. If they have the power to make change, they should do it.
I think rather than thinking that, they seem to be helpless or just plain ignoring the problems that are happening in the world, there are, things that are already happening in the world that they are responsible for. So, granted, it's not as common around here, but Lathander is the one who makes the sunshine and he contributes to the beauty in the world and, vitality in general. And that is something that sometimes we can take for granted.
Well, speaking of gods that like to make messes for themselves that we have to deal with, what was her name again? What is she the god of? Can't make
Frost
good
Maiden?
traps? No, the one that was upset that the lich got out.
Oh, that wasn't quite a god. That was more of an angel.
Oh, well, she's the angel of failed traps, apparently.
I guess. I don't know.
Who she was the angel for?
I don't know exactly.
No. Yeah, it's a good thing we avoided trying to do any deal with her then.
I guess so. We'll have to see if who knows what kind of consequences there might be for our actions.
Oh, there'll be plenty.
We'll see how it goes and we'll make the best of it.
Mm. And he just starts stoking the flames a little more. If you need anything repaired, just leave it by here.
I mean, I would say if you needed any help that you could ask me, but I'm sure it's something that you enjoy just as much.
I wouldn't mind the help, but you need rest as well, and I'm feeling like utter tree rot.
I mean, it's also the middle of the day, so I could rest for a short period of time, maybe just relax and then do some work and then go to sleep. I think that wouldn't be too much of a problem.
Mm. Well then, if you want to help, let's start by polishing the pieces that are good and maintaining leather. And then once the forge is heated up, we'll start banging out the issues and dents. Sound good?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. He'll take out what little blacksmith kit he has and start oiling up the leather to help it stay nice and good instead of cracking, and polishing up Rogar's armor.
Elijah, as you're working on perhaps banging out some of the dents in Rogar's, maybe one of his bracers, you're just casually, knocking them out with the forge hammer. Guardian, you look over and you see that she is effortlessly doing that. With this hammer, it seems to be handling the wood almost as if it were paper. I'm sorry, handling the metal as if it were paper. She's really not even having to put much effort at all into shaping it out.
Handy little trinket. All I got was this chain that made me grumpy.
I'm sure we will find you, you know, something that you enjoy using. I don't know. It it's interesting to work with a tool that cooperates, I guess.
Just give her a nod. Like, well, it's working for you really well. Oh, hey, do you think that that adventurer would just drop his jaw if he saw you with that?
I mean, isn't he from down south? So he might not even know what it is.
He might not. Yeah. Maybe there's tales of this legendary smithing hammer.
And Josh, would I know tales of this hammer?
Why don't you give me a religion check? With a 10, you don't know any specific tales about this hammer itself, but you know that in dwarven culture, of course, hammers are pretty important anyway, but it's also a symbol of Moradin. And because it was the sort of sensual artifact of Battlehammer Hold, and it's that symbol, it probably has some special meaning, not only to them, but just another dwarf in just that you would pass. But this guy being a paladin of Moradin would probably really like it.
That makes sense. I think Laja will reply. I have to say that I never heard stories about this thing in particular. I just know, like, things like this would be interesting. That's about as much as I can say. But
Hmm.
who knows? Maybe it's a mountain dwarf thing. I wouldn't know.
Yeah. Guy will just nod, and after a few moments of just him working in silence, only sounds is them just working on the armor. He'll just start to hum ever so slightly.
And I would say we probably work for quite some time, and then eventually we'll have some of Vorgar's stuff pretty well maintained, and I'll go and hand it back to him.
And Guardian, you recognize as she's taking stuff off the forge, and cooling it and getting it, polishing, getting ready to bring it back to Virion, that she could probably, the two of you working together, actually improve his breastplate if you work together, but it would be probably very exhausting for Laja.
How much sleep does Elijah need? Is it 8 hours?
Yeah, 8 hours.
I only need 6. So we're going through it the day, then resting at the night, and then the next day we'll be talking to the guards? Is that what the plan is?
I think so, but I'm not sure if everybody else was planning that.
I'm just wondering for time, because, yeah, like, Elijah and Guardian could start it, but the moment Elijah starts feeling, like, hey, I need to sleep, then Guardian will just continue on until he needs his at least 6 hours.
It's probably about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, if that's any help.
Okay.
And I mean, it's not a matter of like, I have 5 HP because I have spell slots. I can make myself feel better. It's just a matter of doing work.
Yeah, as long as we're able to get our rest. That's the main thing I'm worried about.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
How about this? You all can work on trying to improve Rogar's breastplate for about 4 hours and then see where you end up. So that would put you at, 8 o'clock in the evening, about the time that Laja would probably be going to sleep anyway.
Okay. Yeah, do you want us to roll anything?
Yeah, I do. Let's see. Laja, if you can give me a strength check, and let's say you have advantage with you and Guardian working together. If you can give me a strength check first, please.
And here I thought you were going to make me finally use my smith's tools.
Well, I think between the two of you kind of have that covered, but this is you using your hammer to do forging
Oh,
stuff.
man.
It just doesn't work out for you, Laja. You spend 4 hours hammering away on this thing, listening to what Guardian was leading you at to work the metal, but it's just not coming together the way that you'd hope.
This is a little... are you sure we can really clean this up that much? It seems a little bit brittle.
The material's fine. He just looks at Elijah for a moment like, you go get some rest. I can stay up for another 4 hours.
Okay, if you need my help for anything, just call me.
I will. Can Guardian try for it? And then go to sleep at 12?
That depends. Are you going to try to take the hammer from Laja?
He's gonna use his own stuff.
Okay.
He's just gonna use his own tools.
I think, why don't you give me a strength check, sure.
Normal?
Yeah. So you've managed to clean up Rogar's armor the best that you could. All the dents and damage has been, polished out. It looks very nice, very clean. It looks almost new, perhaps even better than it looked when it was new. That might be all you can achieve right now.
Alright. Then I go to sleep.
Yeah, so this was 4, I think I said 4 hours that had passed. So Virion, I'm going to throw you over to the temple. And you make your way over there after having spent some time with Fief, putting together bows and arrows and spears with not much to work with. You think you probably have 3 or 4 good bows, and not bows that you would ever use, but that people that are untrained and they're just hunters could probably use to maybe injure someone in light armor. But that might be the best you can manage with what they had. But you make your way over to the temple and you see Laja and Guardian packing up their smithing tools and sort of packing it in for the night.
Virion is gonna just walk past them into the temple and get his 4 hours of rest underway, so he can start helping the townspeople craft the bows and stuff that they've messed up already.
And as you're walking in, Virion, you notice Rorgar in the temple, the forward part, or sorry, the chapel in the forward part of the temple, and I guess he's kneeling, I think, in front of some candles. That's where we left him.
Rorg, are you awake?
Yes, I am just in quiet contemplation.
All right. I'm gonna hope it's okay. I'm just gonna sit down here and do my meditation. And Virion's gonna go into his trance, but he's gonna hum and whine really loudly to break Rorgar's prayer a little bit.
It's strange that he has never done that before.
I hope he never does again.
And that'll continue for 4 hours.
And this goes on for a bit. And the dog, Rorgar, you notice, has followed Virion into the temple. The dog you see as a small terrier. It's carrying what looks like a broken piece of a bow in its mouth as it kind of walks its way into the chapel. It sees Virion, its tail wags very quickly, and it runs over to him.
I don't think Rorgar's paying much attention to that. He's just taking a moment. He's probably taking as long as he can until he has to sleep. So just sit and pray. He hasn't had a chance to do this since he came here. And talking to Lathander, he's hoping that whatever message he can give to Lathander will pass on to his friend Torm.
You don't get any sudden insights as you're sitting here praying, but the dog, just doesn't even really gather your attention as it's nestled up to Virion chewing on its piece of wood.
You were really trying to hum Sandstorm?
I was in retrospect.
It didn't sound... Good song.
Guardian and Laja, as you enter the temple, Laja, you notice that the candles have been lit and the temple is very bright. And you see, looks like some candlelight coming from the chapel area, the front part of the temple. And you see a dog run into the chapel carrying a wood stick.
Does it still look like a boxer?
It still looks like a boxer to you, yeah.
Well, I'm gonna go up to the chapel area, I guess. See what the commotion is.
Guard's gonna think to himself for a moment. He's gonna sit down. And he's gonna start a 10-minute ritual with speak with animals. Gonna sit down over here.
You are 10 minutes past Guardian, and you know what? It works. For the first time ever, it works.
He's so happy.
The dog drops the stick, and it turns around, and immediately kind of like silently steps into the temple and looks at you, Guardian. When you see it, it looks sort of like a white husky. And it stops, and you immediately hear in your mind, hello?
Hello. This work. Fascinating.
And then, you want stick?
Yes, give me stick.
And the dog turns around, grabs the stick, and begins to run it over there to you.
I'll take the stick. Like, do you want to fetch the stick? I'll throw the stick, you bring it back.
And the dog's tail starts wagging,
I throw the stick.
and it watches the stick fly through the air and just stands there.
Go get it.
It turns its head to the side. Go get what?
The stick.
And the dog sits down.
Other dogs seem to always want a stick. You throw it, they bring it back. They drop it, throw it again, they go get it and bring it back.
And the dog turns and goes back to the chapel. And actually, Varian, as you're not paying attention, it roots around in your backpack and steals one of your rations and brings that back to Guardian.
No. Are you hungry?
And it just dropped it at your feet.
Guardian will pick it up and hold it to the dog. Like, I don't eat. But you can eat this if you want.
And the dog sniffs it and then takes it from your hand and eats it.
Good boy. And I'll just start roughing up his head. How do you like your friends? Are they good? Do they feed you?
And the dog says to your mind, love to mask.
That's good. I'm just going to scritch behind the ear.
And then it says to you, looking for the father.
For the father. His father?
And it turns its head a little confused and it says, looking for the father in the forest.
There's a lot of forest out here. Trying to find a father is going to be tough. You just keep paying him.
And you get a sense that the name of the dog is Shoelace.
Who's a good boy? You're a good boy.
And the dog walks over and he takes one of your javelins and starts chewing on the wood part. I mean, it's a long piece of wood, so probably near the handle.
He's gonna rummage through his bag for a little bit just to see if he still has any, anything left over. You know what? He's gonna pull out his great club. He's gonna give that to the dog. You know, G1 does is tougher. It really works the teeth.
And he starts to chew on it. And as he's chewing on it, you get a sense of an image that's in his mind that he's thinking about. And he's thinking about it looks like a tree, an olden oak tree that's underground and like the roots may have gone through the ground. And it's in a small puddle of water, a small pool of water. This tree's roots have extended down to that point. And he is thinking about an old man sitting at those roots underground, and that is actually what he's thinking when he says need to find the father.
Okay, we'll just keep paying him and slowly stand up and walk over to the group there. But guys, guess what? It finally worked. Speak with animals. The ritual I was taught.
And I think you walk into this chapel and everyone is asleep.
Guy just looks at everyone and was like, okay, well, tomorrow. He'll just walk back out. He'll sit back down and go into sentry mode. He'll have his hand outstretched so if the dog wants to, like, get false pets. He can just, like, head bump the hand.
And I think Shoelace would try to nestle up to you, Guardian, but since Guardian is really just a piece of metal, Shoelace will eventually give up on you, Guardian, and probably go and lay next to Virion. But I think you all said you wanted to do a long rest. Is that right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yep.
That means everybody can replenish hit points, spell slots, all that.
Perfect.
So I believe I'm going to put all of you, even though Guardian and Virion only need a few hours, I'm going to put all of you into the morning the next day. If that's all right. Unless there's something specific Virion and Guardian would do in the few hours by themselves.
Just if there was time, I was gonna go help Fef help build some bows and make the weapons a little bit better as best to my abilities as I could.
I think your efforts that you did the night before were kind of the best you could do with the materials they have. So they have not great wood to work with, and she'd actually kind of use the wood that they had to make those substandard bows. So what I think you probably were able to do was pick through the ones that were okay and give them some improvements, but you might need better materials to make a better outcome.
All right.
Yeah, but what would have happened would be Guardian and Virion, you two would have come to. It's probably even before morning, so it's still dark. Laja and Virion, or Laja and Rogar are still asleep.
Virion, come here.
Varian will walk over to Guardian.
I did
What is
it. It worked.
What worked?
I was able to communion with the beast. I
You
could
talked-
see. Yes,
You talked to the puppy.
I did.
What did he say?
You must find the father.
Whose
Then I
father?
saw. I don't know, but I saw this nice oak tree that was in a puddle, I think, with some old man next to it. No, the old man's not important. The tree, though, had really nice branches. If I can get one of those branches, I could make myself a new maul. He looked sturdy.
And that'll help us find the father?
No, maybe, I don't know. I'm just saying that if I find this tree, I'm going to rip off one of those branches, make a maul out of it.
If you're excited about it, I'm excited about it then.
I'm excited that this ritual finally worked. I tried it with an owl and turned out the owl was just some imitation owl. Made me sad. And then I tried it on Suzanne, and apparently dragons aren't beasts. Who would have thunk that?
It's very funny just imagining Guardian being excited for the first time, and he just kind of has verbal diarrhea, so he's telling me everything that he's kind of excited about. Like, I'm gonna make a mall, and I talked with the dog, and
Like he's 6.
yeah, exactly. It's like first day of school, like, and then we did this. Sorry.
I tried to tell all of you earlier, but you all were asleep and had to sit here and wait.
Well, I'm glad I was the first one you were able to bestow this information upon.
Yes, I do plan on telling the others.
Right, of course. And then Viren's gonna motion over to the dogs, like, "Come here, boy. Whose daddy do we gotta go find?"
And the dog is picking up on all of your excitement and just running around the two of you, barking and just so excited. And it just repeats back into your mind, Guardian, that it needs to find the father. And you get those flashes of symbols again of like an old man, tree roots, and like a small pool of water.
Yeah, that spell only lasts 10 minutes.
Oh, the duration. We'll keep it active. I mean, it's not going to give you anything extra here.
Alright. Guards has been constantly recasting it. They're like, yes, it works.
Yeah.
Oh, then, Guardian, you also knew the name of the dog, Shoelace.
Who's a good shoelace? You are a good shoelace.
That's a dog guardian.
That's the name.
Oh, that makes way more sense.
By the way, it's a new day, Varian. Do you name your penguin?
You asshole. Virion will just like instantly lose all excitement and sulk a little bit.
So cruel.
Yeah, I guess Gary will wait for the other two to wake up. Not much to do in the 2 hours.
While you guys are already up, I will get up reasonably early because that is just how Laja is.
Good morning, Elijah.
Did everybody rest okay?
Indeed. Guess what I did?
What did you do?
I can communion with the dog. It finally worked. And then he'll just repeat the same thing he did to Varian with the same excited energy.
I'm not saying that it was a bad thing, but are we like stealing this dog, or are we just watching it for now? Does the other party know where their dog is?
No, they could have looked for the puppo, but they didn't. So, they must be okay with him wandering around.
Did Rorgar overhear that the description from Guardian? Oh,
don't worry, if you didn't, Garner will tell you all the same thing as well.
So I think after Rorgar gets up and puts on his armor and he thanks both of them for fixing it. Once he hears that story, he'll go back to the tavern hoping to find Two Mask.
Did we lose Josh?
No, sorry, I'm chatting with Nick.
Oh.
Nick is, I can get it done faster just telling you. You don't have to really worry about a component in this case. I think because it uses a spell slot, that's enough of a cost, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, but it's more thematic.
I'll leave that part to you, but I don't think I'll make that a requirement.
That's fair.
So
That's a thing for later.
Rorgar, you're going to head back to look for Two Mask?
Yes.
And I think probably about the time Rorgar and Laja get up, it's probably about 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, so the light's starting to shine out of the rising sun, so you can make your way over to the hall. Are any of you else doing anything here in the temple?
No, Garth's actually going to stand outside the temple because it's going to be about soon, not sure exactly when, but soon that guard's going to show up and wanting to answer. So, guard's just going to get ready for that.
All right, Rorgar, as you make your way back to the mead hall, you see some people are coming in for breakfast, which breakfast is exactly the same as dinner. It's just more soup from the cauldron.
Delicious.
You see at the same table the four adventurers. It looks like they may have drunk themselves into sleep. Two Mask is at the table with his head laying down on his arms on the table, resting.
Rogar will approach the table and put his arm on Two Mask's shoulder and just gently shake them awake.
Horfit
Friend, are you all right?
Horfit is actually, you have to step around him. He is asleep under the table. As you walk by, he says, "No." Horfit is still asleep, but he's saying in his sleep, "No, I don't mind a long beard. No, it doesn't tickle. No."
First time having the mead here, I see. It had a similar effect on me.
Treldane awakens before you get to the table, and he looks at you very sternly, Rogar, and he says, "Derivative, what do you want here?"
I would like to have a conversation with your friend Two Mask. I may have some information that they find useful.
Useful. More useful than anything else you've said.
Probably.
I will go find the facilities. And Troldane walks away. But as he does, Two Mask shakes his head a little bit, scratches his ear, does a cat yawn, and he says, "Good morning."
Ah, good morning to you, friend. Hopefully your night was a peaceful one.
It was eventful.
Now, this may seem strange, but my friend Guardian was able to have a conversation with your pet.
Oh,
And
Schmeiss, yeah, that dog never shuts up. And he starts scratching his claws on the back of the wooden chair.
there was something about a father, a tree, an old man in a puddle or small lake of water.
Yes, that is what we are here to find, actually.
Can I ask, if you were to find this, do you know what would happen? The Are you seeking this to destroy it? To seek guidance from it? What?
Roger, why don't you give me a religion check? Oh dear.
I'm just gonna use my inspiration because I feel like this is the only time to use it.
Yeah, for tonight, you're right. Oh boy. Okay. Well, you have no other insight to what you're talking about. Two Mask kind of looks at you sideways, and he says, "Are you a paladin or a follower of Bahamut?"
I am. I pray to Torm and Bahamut equally. Yeah, they inspire me to act courageously.
You must have skipped a few lessons, huh?
Not everyone prays in the same ways.
Anyway, it's of no consequence. Yes, the things you are talking about are all symbols of Sylvanus, the deity that I follow. He is often seen as an ancient tree or an old man. Some of the elves, it is said, in this area used to worship him and made statues, sometimes of a old elven man or just old human. But there is an old temple or old grove or pool of his that I have been called to find.
Um, what I mean to say is, are your intentions pure in this endeavor? Because I may be able to help you find this, but I must know that you mean it no harm.
Well, it depends on the state that we find it in.
Can I make an insight check to just as general rate of this group to know if I think that they're on the level or if they're like a group of criminals on the run or something like that?
Sure, why don't we let's do two masks first. So if you can give me an insight. So with two masks, you notice he's very non-committal. He's not saying exactly what he's going to do or what he's not going to do. That doesn't mean that he's necessarily evil. That means his alignment would probably be more towards neutral, and that he doesn't know you so well. He's not going to tell you exactly what he's doing. Doesn't mean he's evil. It just means he probably has his own motivations. And if you give me an insight check, this will be for Horfit.
Well, Rorgar doesn't actually care about
Okay, just two masks.
Horfit at this point.
Two Mask has said that he's a druid, and from all evidence that you've seen supports that. Not all druids are strictly good or strictly evil, and he might fall into that category.
Well, friend, if you cannot tell me more about your purpose here, I believe this information will have to wait until later.
And he stretches again, and his claws on his fingers extend a little bit as he scratches the wood on the table. And he says, I have been called by Sylvanus.
And I have had an encounter with Sylvanus. I've spoke directly with Sylvanus, friend. And I don't pray to Sylvanus, but I gave Sylvanus my word that I would do my best to help in this situation. I must know that you mean no harm to this.
And he kind of looks at you and he says, now do I believe you?
You must take it on faith, friend.
Could you be telling the truth, or could you be trying to lead me and my friends into a trap?
I have no reason to lead you into any trap. You've already come here. That is a trap enough, as I have already found out.
He says, Sylvanus has called me here, and he will lead me where he wants me to go. If you wish to share that information, that's up to you. If you don't, well, my faith tells me that I will eventually find my way to wherever I need to be.
Then I will leave you to it. I have other things to attend to anyways. And Rogar will approach the bar. And he will ask Zach if he can again see the cauldron.
And
Yeah.
Zach, he starts the motion to the cauldron, which is next to him, and he says, my friend, I have to ask, why are you and your party so interested in the cauldron? I've been asked numerous times about it.
Oh, we have received information that a similar cauldron is being used as a phylactery. Common is not my first language, friend. A phylactery, I believe that is correct. A phylactery for a leech.
I don't exactly know what that is. I was actually wondering if you were going to inquire about the cauldron's extended warranty.
Is that a joke or is that the real thing?
He laughs. Yeah, sorry. It's my sense of
Sometimes
humor.
jokes fly overhead. Again, common, not first language.
I don't know what a phylakt is or anything like that. The cauldron is feeding the town well.
Well, a phylactery is what a lich uses to essentially maintain its immortality.
I see. Well, you can take a look at it if you'd like, if that will help you solve whatever riddle that you have to solve.
Can the Guardian come in at this time?
Sure.
And Rorgar's going to start casting Detect Good and Evil, which is very similar to what he did before, but it might just have a slightly different effect.
Okay. As you come around the bar, which I think you probably need to be in range, Rorgar, can you first roll me a wisdom check, please?
Just a check or a save?
Do a check, please.
I'm gonna give him my inspiration. Oh my goodness.
Okay.
There you go, Rorgar.
Let's go for number 4.
Okay. It's gonna be like, what do I do for a critical failure? You fall in the cauldron? I don't know. You walk around the cauldron and it looks pretty plain. You know, it looks the way that it did before. You know, all the carvings and everything on it. You remember when you were all moving it before? It's very large. It was actually very heavy, but nothing seems out of the ordinary there. When you cast your spell, Detect Good and Evil, I'm reading the description.
It's very similar, but it stays up for 10 minutes.
I love the requirements there. It's blocked by 3 feet of wood or dirt. Thanks, guys. That's something we need to know. That's important. You don't detect anything, either aberration, celestial, elemental, fey, fiend, or anything like that from the cauldron. You do get a faint detection of celestial from Horfit, just like you did the night before, though. But the cauldron just seems pretty plain.
Verdict, Rorgar.
It seems to be all right.
Oh, good.
Dealing with magics as powerful as a lich's magic could somehow hide it, I guess, but I think it's all right.
Rorgar, if you can give me an insight check with advantage, please.
2 1s coming up.
All right, with a 13, you don't know much about phylacteries or liches to know many details, but just because if this were a phylactery, it doesn't necessarily mean that it would come across as an evil object.
Yeah. So Rorgar will say, it still could be the object we are looking for. I am not sure.
Well, if a phylactery is supposed to hold a piece of a soul or whatever the heck it's supposed to do, that'd be pretty evil, right?
I have to admit I do not have much experience with this.
Well, if we're not getting any sense from it, best to leave it then. Zach, the moment that anyone starts getting violently ill, you get them off that thing, okay?
Of course, the only person that was violently ill was probably Fief last night. She was quite upset about some sort of exchange with one of your friends.
Who?
I believe his name is Virion?
Oh, he probably told her about all the penguins he's killed.
Right.
You ever look around at the group there, you're like, oh, 2 Mask.
2 Mask looks up. Good morning. And he's cut off by the sound of a bell. Like a loud bell from outside. And Zach looks up, and Olivisa looks to him, and Zach says, that must be the guards from Bryn Shander.
Oh, great. Alright, I talked to your dog, it was amazing. We'll be right back.